Welcome to season 2, episode 10 of Youth in the Loop, a talk show geared at youth, for the youth, youth expressing themselves in controversial issues. I am your host, Philippa Dixon Lamey. My co host for today is Lavana Rhodes. On my panel today, we have Samantha, Japheth, and Kathleen. Today's topic for discussion is a third in the series, Adulting While on Fire for Christ, letting go of habits or attachments that don't draw us closer to Him. Letting go of bad habits or attachments brings us closer to God. Every step you take in life, we take in life rather, involves choices and responsibilities. So we often hold on to ideas that we can control everything. But what if our real power really lies in letting go? I'll go straight into the discussion. What habits, mindsets, relationships, or attachments can quietly compete with God for our attention and affection?
I think I want to start this off because this is a spicy topic for today.
Yes, it is.
Now, in the 21st century, in 2026, I think one of the most diabolical mindset that people have these days is focus on money and material possession. It feels
Mm,
like money drives a lot of persons' decision making and what they do, and sometimes it can be for the good or for the worst things. But the problem is for the Christian, a money-driven mindset can become a substitute for trusting in God. And if
mm.
we remember in Matthew 6:24, Jesus told us that we can't serve God and serve money at the same time. It's impossible. And I think another aspect too, if I could add very quickly, is the aspect of physical appearance and beauty. If we look at social media on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok,
Mm.
everyone wants to look beautiful. And if we look at it on a surface level, it's fine. You should look your best. But when it comes to it becoming an idolism mindset, that's where it's a problem because of course we need to take care of our body physically and also holistically. But when it takes the place of God, then it becomes a big problem for everyone that's involved.
That's so true. I agree totally with you, Japhet.
Yes,
Samantha, Kathleen.
yes, I was going to say I agree as well. Anything that competes with God is basically considered as an idol. So you have to be incredibly careful. Some things are even things like romantic relationships, your friendships, anything that you choose to prioritize over spending time with God, over any praying, trying to get closer to him is an idol. Some other things like Jafet mentioned, social media, I would say like spending your time on social media, doom scrolling. A lot of
Mm.
people don't consider it as an idol, but you're on your phone, next thing you know, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours have passed by, and you're still focused on this one thing, this one video, this one
Mhm.
post. These are things that are taking place of your connection with God, and it's something that a lot of people should pay more attention to.
That's so true. These are all distractions. Samantha.
Actually, what I'm going to say is a little bit controversial, but just hear me well. I think sometimes instead of just looking at the worldly aspects, I think I'm just going to say it and hopefully it makes sense. Being too obsessed with doing things for Christ, right? A
Mm.
lot of times where we're too obsessed and we worship and idolize the building and we idolize the Bible. If you hear
Mm.
what I'm saying,
Mm.
sometimes when you have those elders that are too dedicated to their job as if they don't have a life of their own, so they end up weaponizing the very thing that was supposed to be positive becomes negative. Now we're doing things with a mindset where we're like, oh well, Now you're telling me how I need to worship Christ, how I actually need to look. Now you're weaponizing the very thing that we're supposed to be doing. So yeah, you're coming to church, you're doing your thing, and you're following God, and yeah, we get that whole thing on the outside, but on the inside, I think is actually worse inside than outside because we already know what's going on the outside. But you're
Mm-hmm.
coming inside the church, now you're telling me how to dress, how I need to look. Especially for the ongoing members who've been in the church. Now you're literally harming other young girls, you're harming the young boys, you're bullying them basically because now
Mm-hmm.
you're just weaponizing your position to get through just to be a secretary. Like you have nothing else going on. You're like you have no job, you got no grandkids, you have nothing going on but the church. Now it becomes your whole thing, and now you're bullying other members, you're disrespecting other people. Now you're using it for whatever gain you get because you're not happy within yourself. So you're not grounded with Christ within yourself to the point where you have to use a building and
Mm-hmm.
then put God on top of it to get your point across.
So is it
I
that
think
you're
so.
saying they're too attached?
But yeah, because you don't have a life of your own, and that's just what it is. I don't think that a lot of times you don't have a life of your own. Because if you weren't so driven or so obsessed with that and the fact that you couldn't see that you weren't doing things for yourself, then you realize that, you know what? Let me just try and encourage. You're not doing it with a
Mm-hmm.
Christ-like heart. You're doing it for some type of reward in return. You're doing it for a picture in the bulletin. You're doing it for whatever plaque you're going to
Mm-hmm.
receive. When the moment you're looking for rewards, not saying that people should not be recognized for their hard work, but you're doing it for the intention on getting recognized, that defeats the whole purpose of doing something for Christ.
That's
You're
so
just doing
true.
it just to say, the superintendent, oh my gosh, she's been here for 20 years and we have to give you a
Mm-hmm.
plaque. God is not going to give you a plaque. He's going to
Mm.
give you your soul. So I think I'll take the soul over the plaque. That's just how I see it. I think it's worse inside than outside.
And nothing is wrong with you expressing yourself.
I just had,
Yeah.
disclaimer.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be doing it for the wrong reasons. I got you.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
sounds like you're
Well said.
emphasizing balance, Samantha. And that's true. Sometimes when people are in positions at church, we can lose that balance. And
Mhm.
and I think it links more to the conversation that we had regarding identity in Christ. And there are sometimes people don't have that, their identity is in that position they have.
Mhm.
And once you take that away from them, they don't have anything left because that was their identity and it wasn't in Christ, it
Mhm.
was in that position. So we do have that where people are not sure where their identity lies, and
Mhm.
unfortunately it comes out in the church. Sometimes it comes
Yeah.
out in work. You have work. I'm sure all of us have a boss that maybe because they're a boss,
Yeah.
that's the only identity they have.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, we have that in the church, but I do think that that does happen in other places as well, like work, school. Sometimes teachers
Yeah.
can take on that same mindset as
Even
well.
sports groups. If you're I'm the leader or I'm the captain, so you have to do what I say. You're weaponizing your position. We're supposed to be doing it for something that's positive.
So we just have to have that balance of course, we want to have the
Yeah.
attachment to Christ. You want to do Christly, things that are in
Right.
ministry. However, you want to make sure that you have a life outside of that. You have a family
Yeah.
to take care of and
Yes.
things like that. So I do understand your point in that.
So
Yeah.
true. Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask, so how can we tell the difference between something that is simply a normal part of life and something that has become an unhealthy attachment? So I want to just harp on, just for example, for that question, Catherine's point about doom scrolling. For a lot of us, that's become a part of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become a normal part of life. But in her explanation, which is I do agree, it's not okay. It's an unhealthy attachment. So how can we tell the difference?
When you are now losing time, you're losing focus of your goal. When you see a change in your appearance, when people are noticing your change when it comes to your diet, it can be an appearance in your physical, your mental, when you end up losing the relationships around you, when there's a shift in the air when it comes to even family. So sometimes if you don't see within yourself, if you don't have that awareness within yourself, you don't see the change, then people will be like, hey, Sweater, you're changing, you're wasting time. Like people are gonna say that, and then now you're at the point where you're like, okay, if you're gonna be receptive, like, okay, I'm gonna hear what they have to say. They're gonna become more aggressive. You're gonna resent what they're saying. You're gonna keep going down that path. So as you don't see within yourself, people are going to say it for you. And then eventually your physical will show.
I
Okay,
agree.
go ahead.
I would also say, for example, if you feel a great way to know if you are too attached to something is if you cannot part with it. For example, if you are sitting at the dinner table and your phone is in your hand and you are eating, you're too attached. If you have to go to the bathroom and your phone is in your hand, you're too attached. So things like that. If you feel as though like if you have to step away for 5 minutes and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my phone, my this, my emails, my da 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 da, and so on, and it's just 5 minutes, then you're definitely too attached. So I agree with Samantha. It's just how much time you're spending into these things. That's a great way to be able to determine it. And also how much energy you're pouring into it. If you are so affected by whatever goes on with this thing, whether it's your job, whether it's your life, and to the point where it's like affecting you to the point where it completely controls your mood. You feel like, okay, if something goes great, you're happy. If something goes horrible, you are depressed, you are miserable, you're crying all the time, you're too attached.
I think if we even look at it from a spiritual point of view, all we need to do is just ask ourselves a simple question. Does it bring me closer to God or does it push me further away from Him? I think that's a clear indication to see if it's a healthy attachment or a unhealthy attachment as well.
I like that
And
you.
even if it's a healthy attachment, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lavana.
Okay, go ahead, finish,
I was
Samantha.
gonna say, even if it's a healthy attachment, you can just ask God how to manage it. Cause let's say I'm in business, cause I know a lot of times, or even entrepreneurs, we are glued to our phones, Kathleen. So I'm always on my phone, but it's a good reason. That's a good reason I'm always on my phone. I promise. So yeah, I ask God to help me manage it and help me with the demons when it comes to anxiety and I'm anxious and I'm overloading myself. Just ask God to help give you peace, tranquility. So sometimes you just ask God to just help me just manage it. Because sometimes it can be positive. You just don't know how to deal with your emotions or deal with the things in your life.
Agreed, agreed. And just to incorporate both what you and Japheth said, I'm just also thinking about the fact that some things are good, and we do manage well. However, they can still find themselves impeding on our, spiritual growth. So we have to be very careful that we don't let something that is normal, that's good, take away time from the time that we should spend in growing in Christ. So,
I
go ahead.
totally agree. Totally agree. So in everything, we have to maintain balance and also consistency. Is there something in your life that you know God may be asking you to release, but you find it difficult to let go? And why? Tricky question, but yeah.
All right, that's a tough one. But since we are all young people and we're being honest today, I
Hmm.
will start off with this one. I do have an obsession for anime. In a sense, specifically Dragon Ball Z, it's something that I grew up with as a child. And it's like, you see it as a child and it's like, wow, this is amazing. And then as an adult, you see it again and it's like, wow, this is amazing. So it's difficult. It's difficult because as a guy, like seeing, action,
Hmm.
happening, fast-paced action, to me personally, it's really cool. But I do know that Dragon Ball Z is highly spiritual. I actually did a little bit of research on the origin of the anime, and apparently it's focused on Buddhism and Taoism, which deals with the balance of things, the yin yang, all of
Yeah,
that
yeah.
spiritual stuff. So, because that's the origin of that show, that's something that I need to let go.
Love your honesty.
Something that I used to struggle with a lot that I had to let go of was just trying to feel in control of everything and trying to kind of control the outcome of a situation. And I really had to like let go and leave it up to God because like
Mm.
it says in Proverbs, like trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, He will guide your path. Um, and so and I think that's pretty normal too, like trying to always want to be in control. It's not fun, not if you're in an environment you don't know what to expect. It can
Mhm.
cause anxiety, it can cause stress. But having to let that go and just trust in God and just have that faith and knowing that whatever is going to happen, whether it is good or bad,
Mhm.
God will still be there with me. He's by my side and I will be able to get through this. So
Mhm.
that's something I had to learn.
Definitely. Samantha.
Guess you're all being honest today. I would say mine is, I'll say Japhet, that was really cool because my favorite anime is Seven Deadly Sins. When I found out about the archangels and DK, I was like, hey yo, this is it's getting spooky now. So yeah, a lot of anime does tie to the Bible. So I'm like, yo, y'all a little loud on the creek. Y'all are a little loud, but I love it. I really do. And I had to, take a little step back because I love to cosplay. That was my life, but I gotta humble, I gotta move on. But I
Mm,
would say I am definitely between them two. When it, like when Kathleen said, I'm a perfectionist. I always want to do things my way because I felt like how I did things was the best way because I felt that I had the best ideas. When I did things, it was out of this world. It was just my way was the best way. And it wasn't even like, I don't think it was egotistical. It was just that anytime I did a presentation, I always had the reaction that I wanted. And then when I didn't, not say get what I wanted. It was just more like the fact that you're trying to fight me on something that you know nothing about. That was an issue, or the fact that the morality for me, my morale for me myself is very high, and I hold myself to a very high standard when it comes to anything that I do. I'm overachiever, so when I come across people who are not in the same space or the mindset as me, it bothers me. And I'm
mm,
like, okay, I want to work with you. Like, I didn't really do good with groups. I rather just do everything myself and then put your name on it. Like, that was just me because I just didn't trust that you had the same mind as me. And that was my issue. That I didn't really work well with people all the time because I ended up outshining. And it was just, I'm just want to do everything my way or the highway. And I had to learn that it's not always the best. So I'm learning.
yeah, that's really good. Just to share with you all, growing up, and eventually when I got older, stubbornness, that was me, yes. Yes. So gradually, I prayed about it. I prayed about it. And, you know, the saddest part of it, I think I have two kids, and I think both of them inherited that little trait. But the older I got, I prayed about it, and yes, I'm way better, way, way better. And yes, so as they get older, I hope they pray about it as well. But yes, there are some things that we turn over to God. He'll take control of it. Lavana, go ahead.
Yes, and I am a recovering control freak. So bear with me. I'm learning that. So I'm glad to know I am in good company and myself because yeah, I struggle with that. And
Hmm.
sometimes you initially think that it's a good thing, you're doing the right thing,
Hmm.
and don't realize. And I'm going to that question here. Are there habits that we justify because they don't seem bad, but they still don't help us grow closer to Christ? Any habits that we justify that they don't seem bad, but in reality, they're not helping us to grow closer to Christ. Anything that comes to mind?
Can I ask you a question? What if the habits that you're aware of, right? And then you're working towards it, but you're in the environment that keeps putting you in a position to succumb to those habits that you already outgrown.
Okay, before we answer that question,
Because I think that's
so,
where I'm at. I feel like I'm aware of the habits and I've done better. I'm
but
always
what
like,
is that? But what is that habit first, and then we can get back to
I'll
that.
say
What is
tardiness.
okay?
Tardiness. Like I'm
Okay,
late.
Mm,
Sister
you're
okay,
like
Lady,
that.
don't do that.
yeah.
That's tardiness, Black people time. That's my biggest thing, or procrastination sometimes.
Mm,
I wait till last minute to do everything because I just think I got everything under control. So those
Yeah,
are my two.
yeah. Okay. Anybody else have something that's doesn't seem bad, but it actually is bad?
I'll say doom scrolling. Doom scrolling is a big one. I mean, everyone does it every once in a while. You have your free time and you just go through social media and you do it. But like as Samantha said, it leads to procrastination. You have stuff that you need to do, but then you see something interesting on TikTok and you just keep scrolling and it takes a lot of time. And
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes turn to 50 minutes, 50 minutes turn to an hour, and it keeps adding up.
Distraction.
Right? So I think one of the habits that really catches me a lot is doom scrolling on social media.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, anything?
One habit that I am working on is laziness. There's
Oh,
sometimes
man.
when I, for example, will have a day off from work and I'm like, I'm gonna take care of all of these different things. And, I take a nap and before I know it, half of the day is gone and I have not
Mm-hmm.
accomplished anything on my list. And I know that is definitely not good. Like, it's not good to be idle. It's not good to like not take full advantage of the time that we have because every single day that we have is a gift. We don't know what tomorrow holds. So that's something that I've been trying to work on. Some things that I've been trying to do is like keeping a list. Sometimes if I choose to take a break, I put a timer. Okay, if I'm going to take 30 minutes, 30 minutes. Once when the timer goes off, I got to get up and do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like trying to also like mention that to a family member or a friend, like, hey, help me be a little bit more accountable has been incredibly helpful. And that's helped me like tame it and so
Mm-hmm.
on. Because it's one of those sneaky habits that when you least expect it, it's boom, it happens, and then next thing you know, oh my gosh, where did the day go? So you have to be really careful with it.
Also I wanted to add binge watching. And that's something I struggle with too. But because I work from home, so it's like you in the dead of silence, you want to watch something, do something. Although I'm working, like you don't want to work in the silence, and after a while, listening to something gets boring. Like so, you want to watch something as I'm typing whatever. And so and I do find that to be a hindrance because after the day is done and I'm on that episode, it's like, ooh, I don't want to finish. I want to finish this, And then you find yourself, 30 minutes, hour, you have not, gotten up from the seat. It's not
Mm-hmm.
good. And it's not only not good for our the time that we use in our day, but even activity. A lot of us are not as active as we need to because we are, doom scrolling as you guys mentioned, binge watching, and lazy. I struggle with that too, girl. Sometimes laziness. So it does not only affect us spiritually, but it does affect us physically as well and mentally. So we have some work to do, guys. We
Yes,
have some work to do.
we definitely do because we're all guilty of it. There are times I fall short when it comes on to the aspect of laziness as well. And it's not, say, lazy, but tiredness leads to you feeling lazy. And that's how I feel sometimes. Time is going by so swiftly. In no time, time is gone. So, yes, I become a bit laid back at times, but yeah, we bounce back at the end of it all. Yes.
So, Sister
So,
Lainey, do you feel like maybe when you get, it's just being like overwhelmed? 'Cause I used to feel that way all the
mhm,
time where when you see the task you have to do, and then people get lazy because they think they just get overwhelmed by the day, and I end up with like just take a nap. So I would say what helped me is that if I see that I'm overpowered with a bunch of things, I would
mhm,
take like a 15-minute nap, or I would just like reset myself, drink something, or do a separate activity from what I have to do, and then come back with a clear mind. That's always helped me when I'm doing laundry for my clients, or I have to do anything that's like revolves around my job. That definitely
mhm.
helps. Take a nap, go for a walk, and just reset. Because I get
Yes.
we all get overwhelmed. So I don't think you guys are lazy. I just think you guys are overwhelmed. Because you guys I
Yeah,
think we're all hardworking women and men here. So
I
I
know.
may add to that, and I know I'm taking time, but I it's a very good thought that you brought up, Samantha, because sometimes it's in the mind. And because the mind is telling us that this task is going to take a lot more effort than it actually does,
Mhm,
we feel lazy because we're like, we don't want to start because it may seem as if the task is greater than it is. So sometimes we have to, ask ourselves break down the process of what we have to do. So if we have to do laundry and your mind is like, oh, this is a big task, you can tell yourself,
mhm,
okay, all you got to do is get up, put it in the machine and press start. Tell
Yes.
yourself that, because our minds can play that trick on us to believe, and that's not for everybody, but some of us have to struggle with that. Our mind can trick us to believe that it's a bigger task than what it really is, and then we become lazy because our minds are telling us that this is a huge thing to take on. So we might
Hmm.
have to change that. And then to answer your question, Samantha, if you're in the environment that is causing you to continue to do the wrong habit, then it's going to require you to change that environment. It's going
Yes.
to require you to change that environment, because if you're in a place that's going to cause you to do the wrong thing, it's not going to help you. And when I say change that environment, I don't mean to say, okay, I'm not going because they said 3 o'clock. You know, you if that's the case, then that means you might have to do some inner work to help yourself. But if it's something that's actually, hindering you from growth, then you're gonna have to remove yourself from that.
Yeah, or set a boundary because maybe what I'm doing that's gonna be positive for me could do something positive for them. And just
Hmm.
like
Mhm.
I'm making the sudden change, when you do that shift for them, they can just hop on that bandwagon with you. But everything is not like I said, Rome was built in a day, so we're all learning.
That's
We're all here
true.
for the first time. So
That's so true. Okay, so why do you think letting go can sometimes feel like losing a part of ourselves? Anyone can jump in.
Again, as we talk about the thing called time, with these types of habits, they are cultivated over a length of time. And as we cultivate these habits, it becomes a part of our identity, right?
Mhm.
And because it becomes a part of our identity, by losing it, it's like you're losing a part of your identity in a type of way, right? So I think the amount of time that we take with these habits can sometimes form into our identity, and that can be a major problem.
That's true, but losing it, it is for a positive cause.
It
Yeah.
is for a positive, but the thing is, because it's so difficult to let go of something that you've been doing for so long,
Mhm.
it's difficult. It's for a positive cause,
Oh,
and we
which I
understand that,
understand.
but it's
Yeah.
very, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
yeah, I'll say for something new to happen, something has to give. So, and a lot of times where that's the state of comfort.
Mhm.
When you're just like in that state where you're like, you know what, I'm comfortable. I know you're comfortable because you're with routine. But so with the fact that when you're going to that new change, that's a positive thing because now you're elevating yourself. And yes, it's gonna cause that shift, but it could just be a shift for the positive. So if you want these things, if you want this success, if you envision yourself a certain way, you're gonna have to adapt to a lifestyle that can also bring you to the person you want to be. Because I'll say that entrepreneurship, I had to cut a lot of habits. I had
Mhm.
to change a lot about the way I used to think. I was a very easygoing, like the cookie cutter, like the fairy tale mindset. You get to throw it out. Nobody's nice. Everybody's cruel. Everybody, one of them wicked. Woman,
Mhm.
one them wicked. All right, the world is a wicked place. So to get with business, you gotta have you have to think like a man. You have to have a business
Definitely.
mindset. And it's hard because I'm like, this is not my character. I'm not sneaky. I'm not like this. But you have to, if you want to get to the point of life, you're gonna have to change some things about yourself, and it's gonna put you and not so you're not so vulnerable. So it's a good thing to have a change because you're having new perspectives, and it can save you a lot of the drama because you're already aware of it.
Yeah.
So we discussed quite a few things on why we think it can be hard to let go. But what about letting go? Right, once we have let go, we end up having that space. We have that space. So, like for example, if we let go of laziness, right?
Hmm.
Now we don't have that practice anymore. So what do we fill that with? So how can we replace an unhealthy habit or attachment with something that draws us closer to Christ? We've dropped laziness now, and sometimes we drop it and we don't replace it with anything. So how can we replace an unhealthy habit or attachment with something that draws us closer to Christ, so we're just not left out there and end up fall right back in the same place we were?
I think part of it involves kind of holding yourself accountable.
Hmm.
Sometimes it requires you to have to sit down and just schedule things out, like, okay, if you realize all that chunk of time that you used to lose, now you've gained back in a way. Because of laziness, you've eliminated it. Now you have that extra time. Replace it with something that's more productive, that's more positive. Like, okay, I can spend maybe 30 minutes reading my Bible, 30 minutes listening to a sermon. Kind of find like little ways to incorporate God in your life, 30 minutes praying, or maybe even less than that. But I think what happens is you should start off slow, because sometimes we have this mindset like, oh, we can do it all. Like, oh, I have so much time, I can do this and that. But if you don't
Mhm.
plan it out, if you don't develop that discipline of like, okay, slowly building upon that new habit that you're trying to form, then you can end up um, losing track of what you were trying to build. So I would say start slowly, plan out your day, try to see like, okay, where can I add in more times to spend time with God? What would that look like? And so on. How can I do this? Like, are there places for me to be able to go so I can be able to do these good things? And then from there, just working on it slowly.
I would say allow God to help you find your purpose. Because I can be personal. I'll make this personal. Between like the last 2 years, I was just doing a lot of things. I won't say I wasn't far from Christ, but I was just doing a lot of other things. And I was like, this is so much time I could be putting something more positive. So I started my own interpretive dance ministry where I teach kids and we teach young men and women about dancing, interpretive dancing, sign language, and we read the Bible and things like that. And I used to do it before. Sometimes you have to have a purpose where you have to find out what you love, because if you're
Mhm.
doing what you love, then it doesn't really feel like a job. So I think that's where it needs to start. You gotta figure out what do you like. Do you like to read? And you can read to kids. If you like to dance, teach kids, do something with dancing. If you love to sing, join a praise team. But I'm not saying God's work gonna be easy. When you have a purpose that moves that aligns with you,
Hmm.
then finding that with God is so much easier because the purpose drives itself. The zeal is there. The light is there in you because you're seeing the fruits of your labor. You're gonna have that glow. Because when I'm on that stage and my kids are signing and they're singing, that's the glow. You see God, you see the
Mhm.
light. So you get that purpose, you're good. But make sure you're strong also, because God work is never easy.
Never.
And the people them not easy either. So I say that no.
Javed, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think everything was well said. Just be intentional and find your purpose. Yeah.
That's so true. But Samantha, you mentioned about loving something. Now, can something good become unhealthy when it takes too much of our time, attention, or identity? Give one example, each of you.
Ooh, I gotta go last because that's a hard one. Oh, that's a harder one. You hitting me. Jafet got that one.
I think it was mentioned earlier on in the discussion about church ministry becoming an idol. Everyone
Mhm.
is so busy, everyone wants to get involved.
Mm,
And honestly, if you look at it at service level, it's absolutely fine. You're serving God. But when it takes time away or replaces that quality time that you spend with God, then we have an issue. If it takes time away from your personal devotion from God, then that's a big issue, even with church ministry.
yes.
Okay. All right. So that means it's back to just the awareness. That means you also need to just, like I said, comes back to the alignment and being aware of yourself and putting that schedule, putting that something in that time and that schedule aside. I don't think, and that's a good thing not to look into myself. I don't feel like I never really lost time with God because I feel like it pulled me closer to Him because the purpose was there. Now that my kids are learning about God, I'm learning more of myself through Christ, and I'm seeing things through God's eyes, and then I'm seeing how my kids are benefiting from it. So I feel like when you have a purpose and
Mhm.
you're grounded and you will still have that awareness, I think for me, I'm good. Like I said, everybody's different. But I do have a strong personal relationship with God, and that's how He's able to move me in my ministries and how to prosper. So when you do talk to God, then the purpose will be there.
Okay. Okay, so Kathleen, do you have anything to add?
Yes, so I agree with what my fellow panelists were saying.
Mhm.
Just in general, which is something that we talked about earlier, everything in life you have to have a moderation, right? So if you have too much of one thing, regardless of how healthy it is, how much nutrients it's providing you, it's still going to lead to something bad. Like for example, if you take too much of vitamin D, you end up with vitamin D toxicity. Like you
Mhm.
have to have a balance in life. For me specifically, I would say definitely like work and with school. Back when I was in medical school, just my life was just so dominated by studying, constant studying. I was actually having a conversation about this with a friend the other day. And it was like, at least in the first year, it was really hard to like actually have like a social life. I felt as if I was working two jobs where I was just constantly studying nonstop. Um, and I wasn't the happiest because of that. So what I learned from that is like you have to have a balance. Even though you're studying, you have to be able to do something else that is not connected to that. So that way you internally can feel happier.
Mhm.
So just in life, always consider like, okay, am I putting too much time and energy into this? Is there a way that I can, does this have like a proper balance within my life? Is it taking too much of my time? You have to constantly ask yourself these questions, reflect a lot, and that can help you determine um, if it's something that you should consider cutting back on, or if you're okay and you don't need to make any changes.
And I totally agree.
Hmm. So I just have this question regarding we've talked about the discussion. We had the discussion about letting go, and we've discussed what's bad, what's good, but
Mhm.
sometimes people need an example of what that would look like. I do know, Catherine, you just mentioned medical school as well, but do you have an example of something that you let go and the process of letting go? You don't have to go into, deep detail. You don't have to, share your whole life story, but is there something that you let go and you saw the process work for you and you like to share for someone who may need to hear how that would look, what that would look like? Take a little time. I know that was a spontaneous question, but just want to give an opportunity for people who may be watching on what that would look like practically.
For me, my thing was trying to let go of having control of the situation, having kind of like not being as much of a perfectionist as I used to be. And what I ended up doing that helped me out a lot was I prayed a lot more. I was constantly communicating with God. And I would always tell myself, you've done the best that you can do in this situation. There's nothing else that you can do. Like, for example, with studying, preparing for an exam, I'm like, I studied. I would have to, as I would finish up the day and I'm wrapping up, and I'm like, my mind would be like, oh, could you do some more? Is there something else that you could have done? What else could you do to get a better result? I would tell myself, I did the best that I could do. And sometimes I would list to myself, like, okay, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And it's kind of like, okay, as I was reflecting on the things I've done throughout the day, how I was productive, how I made sure to stay on task, that helped me out a lot. And then also, I would tell myself, leave it up to God. If it is meant to be, it will be. There was a verse, I want to say it's Isaiah 41, verse 11. Oh my gosh. I think that was the verse. But it's just kind of talking about like God has a plan for you. He knows, you just have to leave it up to him. He's going to be there by your side. He hold you in his righteous right hand. He's not going to let you go. And I would always tell myself that, and that helped me calm down a lot. That also helped me to let go because I was like, it's in his hand.
Mm.
And over time, I stopped feeling that anxiety. I stopped feeling that stress, and I started just it's okay. However it turns out, it's okay. And I feel like those are things that helped me really work and become better at letting go of my perfectionism.
Okay, my experience is a little bit different than Kathleen's experience. Years ago, not now, but years ago, I used to listen to a lot of different styles of music, different genre, specifically jazz. And jazz for me, it's mostly music, a lot of saxophone, makes you feel at peace. But I felt like a change needed to be made. So what I did to break out of that habit of listening to secular music is by starting to incorporate it. And what I mean is that I started to listen to gospel music that had jazz melody and jazz
Mm.
chords to it. It was a very slow process because it wasn't overnight. But then I found some music that had that nice jazz melody, and I'm like, man, this is great. Then after some time of
Combination.
doing that, slowly but surely, I moved over directly into, listening to pure gospel. But as I said before, it is a process. It wasn't overnight. But by doing that step, by doing that method, it helps me to progress into a better mindset.
Mm. Okay, so Jaffa, you heard that Kanye album, that gospel album. Yes, okay.
Unfortunately. But
So
I'm
it's a
saved now. I'm
banger.
saved now.
SWV was on there. I was like, whoa, but okay. I'm not gonna judge you how you live, get how you living.
For sure.
But for me, I would say I don't think it's hypocritical. I just think that now that I can acknowledge it and I can just say it, I would say the law of attachment and the art of demotion. And what I mean is that when we get too attached to the identity of the purpose that we are trying to do, and sometimes we get lost in the fact that people around you are always going to disappoint you, and I never knew how to accept that. So it was hard for me to say, why would you do that? Because for me, I knew I was raised where if we're both presented with the same situation, I still wouldn't have chose the result that you did. And I couldn't fathom it because I'm like, why would you go out of your way to do the things that you did? Because that's not what I would have done. And I had to realize that when you start demoting people, not like, oh, I don't want to cut you off, just more like when you realize when you put yourself in a position where mentally, like, everybody will disappoint you, it will not affect you emotionally. Because, like I said, there's depression, there's anxiety, there's heartbreak, there's heartbreak syndrome. Like, your heart can literally break from the turmoil and the trauma that you get from certain relationships, even when it's a relationship with a partner or for a friend. So I feel like I had to learn that. And that's why women or men, they react because they don't know how to, regulate their emotions. So I had to learn how to just accept that, no one's perfect, and I had to go that identity. And I was looking for a Bible verse about that. And it says the Bible frames the art of demotion and letting go of the unhealthy human attachment through humility and surrender. And Proverbs 18:12 teaches, before destruction, a man's heart is haughty, but humility becomes before honor. And Luke 14:11 teaches that self exaltation leads to being humbled, while humility brings honor. So I think that for me, I had to learn that later on in my 20s. So, and I'm okay now because I'm like, you did what you did. It bothers, I'm more disappointed than heartbroken. So I would say attachment and demotion is for me. And life has been easier because I'm like, I can't expect so much because you're not me. I just wish you could have been like me because you're Christ-like, but just because you're Christ-like does not mean you bear the fruit of a Christian.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So it sounds like you're saying that you adjust expectations.
Oh yeah, you have
You adjust
to. If you're
expectations.
always gonna get hurt. You're always gonna get hurt.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because honestly, as you guys all mentioned different things, there are different aspects on how we can let go, and it presents itself in different ways. And you
Hmm.
guys presented good ways that we can let go and what that looks like. And I'm hoping that
Hmm.
someone may have heard what you have expressed and are
Mhm.
able to, see a pathway forward and letting go of something that they want to let go of. Sometimes it's not letting go because you just don't know how to.
Yes.
And so hopefully someone can hear your experiences and apply it to their situation.
Oh, and
Oh.
can I just add? Rastafarian said this. He said the feeling or like the emotion of anger is just punishing yourself for somebody else's action.
Mm.
And that blew me out of my skin, my mind. my eyelashes, my fingernails and toes. I'm like, wow, I'm punishing myself for something that you did. And I
Hmm.
realized, well, I shouldn't punish myself for your own actions. So when I heard that, it it really did open up my eyes to a different perspective. So that's why I'm now in a space where I'm like, okay, let me just accept whatever you tell me now, but I'm not gonna let it affect me on my day to day and how I sleep or how I live my life. I'm not gonna have you on my mind, dwelling on my mind
Mhm.
24/7, because I have a plan for myself with God, and me talking about you and thinking about you, me losing sleep because of you is not gonna get me there.
And you losing sleep, your mind, your mind is so focused on that
I'm
person,
that
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you find yourself not being able to grow spiritually because of that. You have that bitterness or that feeling in your heart about whatever the
Right.
person did.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned in the discussion, our spiritual growth is what is the most important thing. And if it's hindering that, then we know
Yeah.
we have to let it go.
And it's
Yeah.
hard. It takes
Mhm.
time, but it's really hard.
Yes, it is. And they say all good things must come to an end.
Yeah.
All right. So it was a beautiful discussion. And just to leave you all with a question to ponder about. What is God actually asking us to release so that we can make more room for Him? Food for thought. And I leave you with this verse, Romans 12, verse 2, which states that do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your minds. A big thank you to my co-host and my panel for making episode 10 of season 2 possible. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. This was Youth in the Loop. Bye, everyone.